Hello, everyone, and welcome to Drop the Gloves, the show where you ask your questions and you get straight answers from Wichita Thunder head coach Malcolm Cameron. In this week's episode, the coach discusses with us the success he's had in acquiring players. He discusses those rather interesting uniforms the Toledo Walleyes wore. And the coach answers a question about why the metric system isn't as good as the English. So let's get right to Drop the Gloves. Well, let's welcome back Coach Cameron. Coach, do you have team updates you'd like to provide to us?
No. We just, Kent Patterson, we acquired a couple of days back. Just felt with a lot of games coming up that, his experience kind of trumped Peter DeSalvo's in the league. Peter primarily has been a Southern Pro League goalie. Kent's played in this league. He's played at a high level. He's played in the American League. And it's just, Drew has played a lot of games in a row, so you got to have, somebody with some experience in the event of an injury. By no means is this, an indictment on Drew or anything like that. It's just he's played a ton of games, and we have to have somebody who's capable of stepping in and winning us a game when Drew's not in.
Well, before we get to fan questions, let's first of all talk about Alexis Lauzot decides to go play in Germany. How do you think that affects the team at this point?
Well, I haven't really talked to any of the players about it. I know I was disappointed, but I know it was an extremely tough decision for him because his goal has always been to go to the NHL. But the financial offer was just off the charts. It's tax-free money over there. The teams pay their taxes, so it's all net money. And without revealing too many details, it was very significant. And, he kind of sees himself maybe as more of a European type of player, having a long career over there. Guys can make a lot of money. Their schedule is extremely lighter. Like, we have 39 games left, and the money he's going to get is crazy for about 15 games. So it was a tough decision for him. I know he really wrestled with it. We talked about it Sunday nights when he first come over to my place to talk about it. He wrestled with it for a couple of days because he felt he was letting me down as well as his team. But at the end of the day, it's like losing a guy like Jack Rodewald or Chris Rumble or Gagne or Grenham or any of the guys that we've lost. You just move on, and other guys have to step up and increase the role a little bit and the responsibility. And we've seen that over the last couple of weeks. Matt DeBlau's playing his best hockey of the year. He's finding the back of the net. Vince Arsenault has stepped up. Obviously, a guy like Zach O'Brien is definitely stepped up, as is Ryan Rupert over the last week. So, we certainly have enough firepower on our team to continue to score. One guy doesn't make or break it. And, Alex had just had a real good weekend, but previous to that, he'd had a tough 10 games, since coming back from Binghamton. So you just move on.
I take it this part of being a minor league coach is just working with guys coming in and out all the time.
Yeah, it is. This is so much different for our fans than it was with the Central Hockey League when rosters are stable. But you see, in our transaction report league-wide every day, players coming and going. We weren't the only team to lose a player to Europe this week. Manchester lost a guy. I believe Orlando lost a guy. Atlanta lost a player. You're going to see it probably more over the next couple of weeks as these European teams gear up for playoffs, guys leaving and promising them huge financial guarantees. It's a shame because there's nothing we can do to hold on to the players. Because the European leagues are different jurisdiction or things like that. But, we retain Alexis's rights should he decide to come back next year. And I know he enjoyed his time here.
One thing I want to talk to you about is in previous shows we've talked about how much you enjoy the X's and the O's aspect of the game.
Yeah.
But this season you've really made some incredible transactions here. Jamie Dornbosch, Ryan Rupert, David Friedman, Brendan Carlson, Zach O'Brien, who've all made really significant contributions since coming to the team. I would think that maybe the proudest thing you have so far about the season has been the great job you've done in acquiring players.
Well, we at one point we had 8 or 9 guys up in Binghamton, so you have to use your resources to fill holes with the team. As we've said before, we never expected to have lost all of these high-end type of players for this long a time. And the players of that caliber don't grow on trees once the season starts. So you've got to, kind of find your your niche and really bang on your resources to help you out. And looking at the players, like, first we acquired Nathan Moon because we thought, we needed a little bit more of a veteran presence on our team, but our team is a real speed team, and he's not a speedy player, so it wasn't a great fit. We tried Dalton Levaye, just didn't work out with him. So it's not like you quit, you just keep trying. So, the first guy was Jamie Dornbosch. He was playing university hockey in Halifax, my hometown, for a good friend of mine. I knew he was available because I talked to him all summer. I knew when he was coming available, so he kind of was under the radar, and then we got our deal done to bring him in, and he's played very well for us. Brandon Carlson was a kid who came out of University of Alabama Huntsville after exhausting his eligibility. It came down to us and Indy. He chose Indy at the time because their record wasn't as good as ours, thought he'd have a better opportunity. For some reason got released there. I don't know why, whether it was contracts coming down from their affiliate or what, but we're very happy to get him. Ryan Rupert's an NHL contract with Ottawa, so we were happy to get him, and he's playing very well. David Friedman, younger player. Perlini, who we traded there, who was only here a week, was going to leave to go to Europe and hadn't told the Rapid City coaches. So when we acquired him, he really just he's got a girlfriend or a fiance in Fort Wayne. That was really the only place he wanted to play, or he was going to go to Europe. So we were able to get David Friedman for him, who's a real good young player. Lots of skill, lots of speed. And then Zach O'Brien, fellow Atlanta Canadian like me, is another guy I talked to this summer. Wasn't happy in Europe. Almost the opposite of Alex going over there. Wasn't happy. And we courted him for a couple of weeks, and obviously he's made a huge impact. So you got to be resourceful, and you got to try and fill holes as quick as you can. And that's the nature of the beast in the ECHL. I know it gets frustrating for our fans, but it's not just the Wichita Thunder. It's everybody that goes through this. You look at Tulsa. They lost De Silva, they've lost Kessie, they've lost lots of different guys for long stretches to call-ups and injuries and things like that, and you just got to try and plug holes and find free agents and stay on the phone and see what's out there.
That seems to be working well for you so far.
Well, we'll see. We got 39 games to go. We got a lot of games in hand on teams, and if we can play like we have over the last 2 weeks, we'll make up some ground here very quickly.
Well, let's talk about the acquisition of Kent Patterson for a moment. Do you see him coming in as the number one goalie, or is he competing for that?
Well, he's competing for that. That spot's Drew's right now, because he hasn't played a game for us yet. So he was brought in really for security, and to have two goaltenders with experience now. Drew's played a lot of games, so he's got experience, but Kent's been around a couple of years. He was brought in really as a good insurance policy for us.
Can we assume that the acquisition of Patterson means that Scott Grenham will likely not be back with you?
Scott Grenham will be back, and I know the timetable for it. I know there's a lot of speculation out there that he's not coming back. I've known all along that he is coming back. I think people forget there's two NHL goaltenders that are in Ottawa not playing. So there's Andrew Hammond, who's been out with a high ankle sprain, I believe, and Craig Anderson, who's dealing with his wife's cancer issues. Both expected back very quickly. That would give them three goaltenders. They don't carry three at the NHL, so that'll send somebody down to Binghamton. They'll have four goaltenders in Binghamton with O'Connor, Drieger, Grenham, and somebody going down. If it's Hammond, more likely, because Anderson's a bona fide number one in the NHL. So there's your trickle down effect. So no, that does not signify by any means that Scott Grenham will be back quicker than people think.
Okay. Well, let's head to our fan questions this week. First of all is John from Park City. He says, who do you think is the best trash talker on the team?
It's probably between roommates Ryan T-Sink and James Melindy. It's a big part of their game. T-Sink's a real rat on the ice. That's his style of play, and he's really good at getting under people's skin. Melindy certainly is a guy that likes to trash talk. In every stoppage of play and scrum, his jaws are just a flapping. So he loves it. Those are things that sometimes get people off their game, sometimes get people on their game. But both those guys are playing their best when they're talking trash.
Yeah, I noticed this last weekend that in every stoppage there seemed to be somebody who had their glove in Melendi's face at some point.
Oh yeah, he drives people crazy, and he does a real good job of getting people off their game.
Next up, we have Ken from Wichita. He says, I found the story about Ryan Rupert playing against his twin brother to be very interesting. I would think it would be hard for him to keep his emotions in check because he went to outplay your sibling.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time I've ever been involved in something like that. I mean, they're identical twins, so it's, it was kind of weird to see that on the ice, that's for sure. But I know he was very passionate about, because he had missed the previous game due to an injury. Very passionate about getting in the lineup. Unfortunately, we lost that game 1-0. We had tons of chances to score. That was one of those games where we were struggling to score, but now we've gotten out of that and we're scoring lots of goals. So I think he would rather have won the game, against Indy rather than playing against his brother.
Next up, we have Ann from Rose Hill. She says, are you a coach who likes high-scoring affairs or those 1-0, 2-1 games?
I'll take them as you can get them. I mean, sometimes, the high-scoring affairs are not... They're aggravating in a sense, because some people think you're not playing good defense, but sometimes you can defend as well as you want, and maybe your goaltender was off that night, or the bounces went the wrong way. I think it just depends on the style of the game. As long as you're playing the right way, and that's what we call it around here, playing the right way, it doesn't matter to me whether it's 1-0, 2-1, or 9-8. So as long as guys are working hard, they're sticking together, and we're controlling the tempo of the game, doesn't matter to me.
Our next question comes from Steve from Wichita. He says, when I watch games, I see players jump on the ice when the player he's replacing is not off yet. How does that work?
Well, you're allowed 5 feet on the change. That the player has to be within 5 feet of the bench before a guy can jump on. So sometimes the referees are a little lax at that. Sometimes the linesmen are too, especially in the second period where it's a longer change from your own end than it is in the first and third. Players will cheat on the change because they know they can get away with it. But typically the rule is 5 feet. And
then that rule is kind of circumvented, like if the puck hit off a guy who wasn't off yet but was supposed to be off. Is that the way
well,
that works?
Technically, he's supposed to be involved in the play, and that gives you too many men in the ice. So you'll see some referees, if a guy is changing and he's right at the door and the puck went off his feet, he's not really playing the puck because his back is turned. They'll let those things go because it's inconsequential to the play. But if a guy steps on the ice and his replacement player isn't off yet and he handles the puck, then that becomes too many men.
Okay. Our next question comes from a person in Valley Center who says, has there ever been a time that a player made such a boneheaded play that you simply couldn't even challenge him about it because it was so stupid that he had to know how dumb it was when it was done?
Yep. Mm-hmm. This year, as a matter of fact, sometimes you just don't even have to say anything because guys just know, and they'll come back to the bench. What was I thinking? And most of those types of plays are because guys didn't mentally prepare themselves for a hockey game. Like, it's not just coming to the rink and warming up your body. You got to warm up your mind. And I like to tell the guys to visualize and play the game in your head before you go out there. You know what type of player you are. Like, if you're a Jared Grant, Ian Lowe, Ryan Tiesing type of player, you're going to be involved a lot in battles along the boards and forechecking and finishing your hits and things like that. And that's a tough game to play, so you can't just strap on the gear and go out and expect to be successful. You have to visualize taking those hits and laying those hits and playing that tough game. So guys that really prepare themselves mentally for games are the guys that won't make those bonehead plays.
Next up, we have David from Wichita who has a comparison question for you. He says, I'm a big basketball fan, and one thing I notice is that no matter what game you watch in the NBA, there is always going to be a time in a game where each of the teams will go on a 10-0 run or a 14-2 run. No matter what the opponent does, that run will come at some point. When I watch hockey, it seems that there are times like that as well, where 5 or 6 straight minutes seem to be in one end of the ice. Is that a correct parallel about hockey as well?
For sure. You can feel it, like when we call it pushback. So, maybe you were kind of just flat a little bit. You didn't have a lot of jump, especially if it's a road game in the first little while. All of a sudden, you'll see that road team start to maybe take the game over. And hockey is a very much a momentum game, and that's usually caused by pressure. The more pressure you put on a team, the more they're going to turn over the puck. The more you have the puck, the more scoring opportunities you have and get a team on their heels. So it's hard to get out of those. There's certain ways you can change momentum in a hockey game. It's usually a big hit, a block shot, a fight, a good scoring chance, things of that nature. So smart teams know how to get out of those situations. What you don't want to do when you're on the bad side of that 5 or 6 straight minutes is take penalties, because then that leads to goals against and opportunities to dig yourself a hole.
So as a coach, then, you enter into games expecting that at some point you're going to kind of have a momentum shift against you like that.
For sure. I mean, the hockey's all about momentum shifts. What it is you don't want those momentum shifts to go on very long. You don't want to be flat a whole period and be on your heels the whole period, because then it's very hard to dig yourself out of. There's key and critical moments in hockey games. First 2 minutes of a game, last 2 minutes, or first 2 minutes of a period, last 2 minutes of a period, where you don't want to give a team momentum going into the dressing room. And that's one thing we haven't done a great job over this last month is giving teams momentum. We've given up some goals late in periods, early in periods, or taken bad penalties early in a period, which gives teams momentum and a lot of time to catch up, and which is exactly what happened Saturday night. We take an unfortunate penalty, over the puck went over the glass, a minute and 10 seconds into the period, then we get scored on. Now all of a sudden they got some momentum and lots of time to catch up. And managing momentum is a real difficult thing for a coach, and it comes from the players on the ice and your leadership group, because you only get one timeout. Now there's some creative ways to slow it down, and that's getting in the referee's ear and trying to slow the play down, and equipment repairs on the ice and different things like that. And we have to do a little bit better job of managing momentum.
Our next question comes from Chris from Oklahoma City. He says, Coach, I have to tell you that I have just started getting back into hockey. I remember that it used to be that players trapped the puck along the boards to draw faceoffs all the time. Now the refs let it play on until someone frees it. What is the rationality behind that?
Well, they're trying to speed up the game and lessen the number of whistles. That used to be a real tactic. As soon as you basically froze it for 2 seconds, the referee would blow it. But they found that was a way that limited scoring. Especially if you're a tired guy and you're pinned in your own end with a long change in the second period, you're trying to get a whistle so you can get fresh people out. Well, the National League decided years ago that they didn't want that. That would increase scoring if they made the play continue, and it has, for sure.
Next up, we have Aaron from McDonald. He says, I wonder your thoughts about this. In baseball, if a player makes an error, that does not count against a pitcher's ERA. Shouldn't the same thing be true in hockey, where shorthanded goals don't count against a goalie's goals against average?
No, because he's still the last line of defense, and he's got a chance to save it, right? So it definitely should. A goal's a goal, as far as I'm concerned.
Our next question comes from Leonard from Wichita, who'd like to know, how about that USA win in the junior title? What a great game.
It was great for hockey. Well, I'm disappointed Canada didn't win, because I will tell you, in Canada, the World Junior Championship is as big as the Super Bowl. It's as big as the Stanley Cup Final. It is huge, because it's the best players under 20 in the world, and 99% of those kids go on to the NHL. It's a real pride thing for Canada, especially when it's hosted in Canada. But for world hockey, in terms of getting people interested in it and getting young players here in the United States, I think it's an awesome thing that the United States won.
Awesome. Our next question is from Ryan from Wichita. He says, Coach, did you see those Toledo Walleye uniforms they wore for Rocky Day? Come on, man, aren't those hideous?
Those are, if those aren't the most hideous jerseys I've seen, they're the top 3 for sure. I mean, I've seen some really, really ugly ones over the years, but those are awful. I'd have a real hard time asking my players to wear those.
That maybe they were using that as a tactic to win.
I don't know. I don't know who came up with those, but those weren't good.
No Rocky Day in Wichita anytime soon. Jim from Hayesville says, it was Friday the 13th last week. Are you a superstitious guy?
Extremely superstitious. Not as bad as a coach as I was as a player, but I'm a very superstitious person. I actually didn't even realize it was Friday the 13th until after our game in Allen, but maybe that's why we gave up the lead and lost the game. But we played a whale of a game. We played 56 great minutes that night and deserved a better fate. But you see how hard it is to win in any sport at any time. and how important 60 minutes is. It was 3 minutes and 30 seconds that cost us that game. The other 56 and a half, we were the better team, and we had the better chances. But there's a reason why Allen has been a two-time champ, and they have their players there, have a belief that they can come back in any game, and that's developed over time with a core group of people, and that's our goal, is to some point get to there and have that attitude around here. We're certainly going to do better in our third periods moving forward, and hold on to those leads and lock them down.
Well, you guys played really great Friday. I have to say that 100 shots the next night in that game with Missouri was really something.
It really was. I mean, we had 28 in the first period, and it just shows you the guys, despite the fact we had an 8-game stretch there, we had 3 really awful games where we didn't score a goal, and then we had 5 losses by 1 goal. It just shows you how resilient our guys are around here. They don't use losing players as an excuse or anything like that. They're a proud group that just wants to get better each and every day. So we're able to flip those 1-goal losses into 1-goal wins over the next 39 games. We'll be in good shape.
Our last question this week comes from Patrick from Wichita. He says, "Okay, Coach, since you are Canadian-born and a permanent American now, settle the biggest question of all time: metric or English units?"
English units for sure. I hate the metric system.
Really?
Yeah. When I was growing up in Canada, right up till I want to say the 6th grade. The 6th grade. When I was in the 6th grade, that's when we went from inches to centimeters, and I still don't get it, honestly, because I think once you're born with something, I've lived the majority of my adult life in the United States, really since 1993. I don't know what a liter is, a milliliter or things like that. I know feet and inches and yards, miles. So my kids are the same, even though they've spent some time in Canadian schools, the metric system, they don't know the metric system. They like the English unit better.
That's excellent. Thanks for joining us, Coach.
Anytime.
We want to thank Coach Cameron for joining us on Drop the Gloves this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Wichita Thunder coach, please send them to us at malcolmcameron@minorleaguesportsupport.com. That's malcolmcameron@minorleaguesportsupport.com. Please have your questions to us by Monday evening so we can give the coach a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Penier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report, and we'll see you next time